Wasabi wallet. Unfairly private.
How do you use a Bitcoin ATM? For those unfamiliar, Bitcoin ATMs allow you to utilize cash at a kiosk and have Bitcoin instantly sent to your own custody. It is a lot quicker, especially if you have a Bitcoin ATM near you, than signing up online and going through the verification process to get an account with a local exchange or an international exchange. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the process involved with utilizing a Bitcoin ATM, from going up, inserting your cash, scanning your wallet, and getting it sent to your custody within only a couple short minutes. We're going to be utilizing a company that is local here to me in Calgary, Alberta, known as Bitcoin Well. They're formerly known as Bitcoin Solutions, and they cover a lot of Western Canada with their ATMs. They've been around for quite some time. So without further ado, I am Ben with the BTC Sessions, and this is your daily session.
Hodl the Bitcoin.
Before we dive into the video, of course, quick shout out to sponsors of the show, LEDN.io. This is where you can use your Bitcoin for a variety of different services. Of course, they have their Bitcoin backed loans, which have saved my butt on a couple occasions. So if you're trying to get your hands on dollars, but you don't want to sell your Bitcoin because you're worried, well, that's a taxable event, and two, you might have to buy Bitcoin at a higher price point, well, this could be for you. They obviously still have their Bitcoin and USDC savings accounts with interest rates of up to 12.25% annually paid monthly. And they've got their B2X offering for you bullish Bitcoiners out there, which uses the same loan mechanism to instantly buy you more Bitcoin. So be sure to check them out. Links are down below. If you click that link and opt to get one of their loan products, they will give you $25 for free into your savings account. Up next, we have the Cobo Vault. This is one of my favorite and regularly used hardware wallets, and I love it because it's 100% air-gapped, which means that you never plug the thing into an internet-connected device. Everything is done via QR code, and that keeps the keys to your money safe and offline. Now, this thing has a secure element. It is open source firmware, and it works with a ton of my favorite wallets like Blue Wallet and Wasabi Wallet on desktop. So all around, love this thing. Be sure to check them out. Link below. And just for reference, I'm using the Cobo Vault Pro, which has the fingerprint scanner and the rechargeable battery. Now, of course, I live on Bitcoin, and one of the ways that I do this easily is through Bitrefill. You can use Bitcoin on main chain or Lightning Network to get just about any gift card imaginable. They've got a ton of different stuff here, so be sure to check them out. The beautiful thing about them is if you're purchasing Bitcoin using Bitcoin to purchase gift cards, you actually earn some sats back. You earn Bitcoin back in the process, which is a beautiful thing. I love it, and I use it regularly. And finally, if you're backing up any Bitcoin wallet, whether it be something like Blue Wallet on your phone or your Cobo Vault or whatever hardware you may have, you may want to consider not doing that on paper and getting it into solid steel. Reason being is, of course, paper, not fireproof, and if there's water damage, you could lose that data, or you might accidentally throw it out just because it's a piece of paper. So if you get it in solid steel, some of those problems start to go away. I use the BillFodl for all of my backups, and I love the thing. So be sure to check them out. Links down below. And with that, let's dive into the show. Now, before we get to the actual machine, you may want to know, what do you need before you get started? Really, really simple here. You're going to need a mobile Bitcoin wallet on your phone. I would recommend one of two that I really like right now. I like using Blue Wallet, which is available for iPhone and Android. I also like Blockstream Green, again, another great option, which is Bitcoin specific. Both of them are. I do have tutorials on both of them. I will include those full tutorials in the links down below in the show notes. And it is important that you do have a Bitcoin wallet before you get started. Outside of that, you're going to need cash. These machines accept cash, and there is a reason why you can't use debit or credit there, and we'll get to that after we show how the machine works. And outside of that, Depending on the machine you're using, and this was not the case here, you may need some form of ID. You may need to scan some form of ID if you're not using the exact same machine that I was using here. It can really depend. Now, we, as I said, are using a Bitcoin Well Lamasu machine here. But there are a lot of different types of machines around. So even if you're not using the same machine that I am here, if you're not in the same locale as me, this video is still worth watching because the process will be much the same. There just maybe tiny tweaks, and the reason I get on that line of thinking when it comes to ID is based on your jurisdiction. There may be different laws regarding what is required in terms of identification in order to buy certain amounts of Bitcoin. So keep that in mind and just be flexible with that depending on where you are. But let's dive right in. Let's see how this machine works. So just a quick little recap on what we see from the Bitcoin ATM here, and this can vary depending on what kind of Bitcoin ATM you're using. This one is from Bitcoin Well, which is a company here in Calgary, Alberta, or rather, I guess, Alberta in general, and they cover a lot of Western Canada. They have a website that shows exactly where their ATMs are located. So you have a main screen. This is a touch screen. You can hit buy Bitcoin, or if you choose to, there are some other coins down below. You guys know me. I'm big into Bitcoin and not so much everything else. So really simple there. Down below, you have a plate here, and there's a little camera in there, and this is where you scan the address of your Bitcoin wallet. So you're going to need to have a Bitcoin wallet on your phone in order to utilize this machine. Now also, down here, this is the bill feeder where you can feed bills in to pay for your Bitcoin, okay? So just bills go in here, and it lights up when it's time to pay. And other than that, there are a couple other slots here for things like receipts or getting cash out. Now this is a one-way ATM where you just purchase Bitcoin, not sell, but again, it can vary depending on the machine you're using. So you may see something a little bit different, but the same general concepts if you're using a different machine. And let's get started. So here I am at the Bitcoin ATM. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit buy Bitcoin. Now at this point, I need to pull out my Bitcoin wallet. If you do not have one, I tend to use one called Blue Wallet, which is on mobile for iOS and Android. I find it quite easy to use, but pretty simple. All I need to do is to go into my Bitcoin wallet, and I'm going to hit the receive button, which is down at the bottom. Now, I've done a full video on this, but effectively what I'm doing here is I'm taking my address, kind of like an email address, so that this machine knows where to send the money. And I'm going to scan it at the little plate down below. And what I can see here on the screen is it says, your funds will be sent to the following address. And if I check on my phone, the digits down below actually coincide with what's on the screen. So it's always a good idea to double check that. It's now telling me to insert my cash, which I will go ahead and do down below at the slot, which is actually lit up. Okay, at this point you can see I've put in 100 Canadian dollars, and it tells me how many millibits. It would be cool to see a variation on that, full Bitcoin or Satoshis or whatever, and that's something that it may depend on the ATM you're at. And then it says I can continue inserting bills, or I can hit send coins, and so that's what I'm going to do. And it again confirms sending the coins, they're on the way to that address. Your coins are on the way to your address here. Take a picture of the screen for your electronic receipt and tap anywhere on the screen when you are done. So actually I will take a quick picture of the screen just as a receipt. That's just for my records. And actually I did get a notification on my phone already, right there, that is coming into the wallet. So let's dive a little bit into the idea of a Bitcoin ATM. First off, why might you want to use a Bitcoin ATM? Well, number one is the idea of self-custody. So with this method of purchasing Bitcoin, you literally put in cash and you are sent Bitcoin directly to your own custody. So other than that in this example, I felt the notification hit my phone within, I'd say, 30 seconds of hitting the send coins button, although that can vary depending on the type of machine, so on and so forth. But there's very little time between when I put my cash in and when I actually receive my Bitcoin. So the risk of leaving those coins with a custodian is essentially non-existent. And if there's something that goes wrong, you can take pictures of the actual the screen afterwards. I took that from my own records, and there's kind of like a paper trail that you can utilize here. So self-custody is very much key, and as I said, it's much better to use self-custody, in my opinion, than leave it in the custody of anyone else. Now, the other thing that I note here is the easy onboarding. So in this instance particularly, I was able to walk up with nothing other than a Bitcoin app on my phone and some cash. I hit the button, put in the cash, and I had Bitcoin in my Bitcoin wallet in a couple of minutes. So that kind of quick process is excellent and very alluring to some people. It's very convenient and quick. Now, let's dive into a little bit of the ID requirements. So here, in this instance, I was not required to use any sort of identification. Now, this again can vary depending on your jurisdiction. So here in Canada, at the current time of recording this video, the regulations are anything over $1,000 will require ID. So that falls under your Know Your Customer laws. And anything over $10,000 will fall under AML, or anti-money laundering laws, in which case you have to prove source of funds and other things like that, in which case you're probably not going to be utilizing an ATM. Now, ATMs, to fit within these regulations, may have varying methods through which they allow you to purchase Bitcoin. Some may require a phone number, some may require a scan of an ID, some may just set limits where you can't buy anything more than $1,000. So again, it really varies depending on the machine you are using. Now, up next, in terms of cash only, this is an important thing to realize. Why can't you use your debit or credit card here? And this is because credit and debit, compared to Bitcoin and the finality of those transactions, being sure that they can't be reversed, debit and credit are far inferior to Bitcoin. So when you've received Bitcoin, after what's known as a single confirmation on the Bitcoin blockchain, that transaction is effectively irreversible. But that is not so with debit and credit card purchases. Those can be reversed much, much later. And in some instances, if ATMs, Bitcoin ATMs, were to allow purchases via debit and credit, they could be opening themselves up to the risk of fraudulent payments that get reversed, and they are still out the Bitcoin. It's kind of like if they were selling bars of gold and you were to pay with a debit card that you stole and tap with it. There's not a lot of recourse, and you still don't have the gold. Very much the same with Bitcoin. So in order to protect themselves from that fraud risk, given that they're dealing with irreversible sound money, they will accept cash because they know the cash is there and that can't really be faked. Now, the last thing I wanted to touch on here is in terms of fees. And again, this is very much dependent. I'm not going to go into specifics here, but I will say this is dependent on the machine you are using. It's dependent on the price of Bitcoin at the time and how the fee structure works. Always, whether you're using a Bitcoin ATM or an exchange, there will be something called the spread. And what this means is what the company was able to get the asset for and what they're selling it for. And this is where a lot of the profits come from. Now, on an exchange, you're going from person to person. You're selling from one person to another, and there's going to be a spread between what the person wants to sell their Bitcoin for or what the exchange is selling their Bitcoin for. And the same is true here. In order to get this number, if you're curious, you're going to have to look at the price of Bitcoin at the time, kind of an average price, and you can find it on a price ticker on your phone, wherever you may find it, and then compare that with what's on the machine. and then figure out what percentage higher that is. And that will be your spread. There may also be a transaction fee involved in that. A lot of the time that will cover like the Bitcoin network fee, which does not go to the ATM operator. It just covers the cost of using the Bitcoin network itself. And in the case of this transaction, it was a $4 Canadian fee that I paid for that service. Much like if you're using a regular cash ATM in a restaurant, you're going to have a few dollar fee attached to that. So just so you understand, the fees can vary, and there's also accounting for the volatility risk of Bitcoin. It's a very volatile asset. And if that ATM provider is actually holding their own Bitcoin and then trying to sell it at a later date, then it could have dropped from the time they obtained that Bitcoin. And so they need to have enough of a spread where they kind of hedge that risk. Otherwise, the business is not viable. So take all that into account as you use a Bitcoin ATM. But if you're looking for a quick, convenient buy, convenient being the operative word here, where you can get Bitcoin in your own custody in very short order, then a Bitcoin ATM may be right for you. Now, Bitcoin Well operates well across Canada. They're in British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Ontario, and maybe even more soon. But their website here, you can head to bitcoinwell.com if you're looking for an ATM. And simply all you do is you click on whatever province you may be in and hover over, and it will start to divide out where all the ATMs are. You can keep clicking until you get down to the street level, and then you can click on whatever location you like and get all the directions and so on and so forth to that ATM. Now, these guys are not a one-trick pony. They offer a whole bunch of other services. Of course, you can buy and sell online if you choose to do so. You can pay your bills through them, which is super convenient for somebody like me who actually gets paid in and lives on Bitcoin. They do sell gift cards here. You can, of course, use their ATM finder as we just saw. You can host an ATM. So if you're a business owner and you'd like to host a Bitcoin ATM in your location to drive more foot traffic, that's an option to you. And also if you're a merchant looking to actually just accept Bitcoin for payments, well, they offer that service as well. So you can head over to bitcoinwell.com and check them out if that does interest you. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, please do remember to hit like, subscribe, and share. All of those things really, really do help. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to check out all of my other stuff. I have tons of tutorials on everything you might need. If you want to help out the show in another way, you can hit up the previously mentioned sponsors down below. That was LEDN. That was the guys at Privacy Pros. That was BillFodl. Same guys. That was Bitrefill and Cobo Vault. All of those in the links down below. And if you really loved what you saw, you can always hit me up with a Bitcoin Lightning Network tip at my tippin.me page. That is tippin.me/@BTC Sessions. With that, I am out. Have yourselves a wonderful day and a wonderful evening wherever you may be. And I will see you next time for your daily session.
HODL the Bitcoin.